Channel 1. Channel 2. 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 Channel 1. Channel 2.
news whenever you want it, wherever you are, anytime. ABC News Live, streaming live and free on all platforms.
Bring them on. If only there was a place in the morning to start my day. With a smile, somewhere to help me get in the know. A place as spectacular as, well, me.
I think we might know a place, right, guys?
Bring your friends. Oh, wait, there is.
Good morning, America.
GMA, 7A, every day. Boom, boom, boom.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, America. How are you?
Boom! Now that's how you start your day, people.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
This is America's #1 streaming news. ABC News Live. Breaking news, exclusives, live reporting across the globe. ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere.
What are the secrets that most people don't know?
Let me see your ID card.
Wait.
This is a world you will have to live in. There's no going back.
We're tracking several headlines around the world. Tens of thousands of Israelis flocked to Jerusalem to demonstrate in front of Israel's Knesset, which is Israel's parliament, as lawmakers started voting on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plans to overhaul the judiciary. Netanyahu, currently on trial on corruption charges, which he denies, says the changes are needed to restore balance in the system and curb activist judges who have overreached their powers to interfere in the political sphere. Critics say he is destroying the country's most important democratic check. An eyewitness video showed strong winds and rain whipping through New Zealand's largest city of Auckland as Cyclone Gabrielle nears the country's coast. Residents there and in surrounding areas are being told to brace for more heavy rain, flooding, and gale force winds, and some homes are being evacuated. The cyclone is the second significant weather event to hit Auckland and the upper North Island in just a few weeks. Mexican authorities have taken into care this Sphinx cat. It was found wandering inside a prison in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. Take a look. The hairless feline has at least 2 tattoos. One on its left side reads "Made in Mexico" with a distinctive eagle, an image associated with one of the criminal groups operating in the state. The cat's caretaker says the cat is not aggressive, but rather very loving toward humans, though it does not get along with other animals. It's a church at the center of widespread sexual abuse allegations. For decades, members of La Luz del Mundo Church, many of them minors, say they suffered at the hands of leaders known as the Apostles. Some of the accusers are now telling their stories in the new HBO docuseries called Unveiled, Surviving La Luz del Mundo. Take a look.
La Luz del Mundo is a church founded in 1926.
Anywhere you name it, there's a church of the light of the world.
We need to do something about it. It's dangerous for us now.
There are chunks of my childhood, black holes, black spaces.
I asked her, how far back does this go? And she said, it goes all the way back.
Joining us now is Director Jennifer Teixeira and survivor Alethea. A very warm welcome to you both. Thank you for being here. Jennifer, it was so wild to hear that this church had existed for so long but hadn't really received attention. When you learned what happened to these former members, you were able to shine a light on this church that claims to have 5 million followers and locations in 50 countries. How have they remained so obscure?
Yeah, this was really happening in plain sight. They not only claim to have 5 million members worldwide, they are in all 50 states. I was, by my home in Los Angeles, was surrounded by 4. I think the way that they were under the radar for so long was this secrecy that they breed into the generations. This has been going on for 100 years. And it wasn't until a group of women found each other on a subreddit that it really blew the top off.
And Alethea, you recount some very difficult experiences in this docuseries. How did it feel reliving some of those moments? It had to be difficult. And also, how did it feel to finally have a chance to tell your story?
Well, it was very difficult because, first of all, I had to understand that what was done to me was abuse. And I didn't even know that. So that was a process. And finally, when I realized what it was, to speak out was also very difficult because you lose your entire family. You lose your social network the moment that you reveal the secrets that you are supposed to keep.
How were you able to walk away from the church?
By just by not going to church. And for us, church is going every single day. There are 3 services a day, so you can go to either one. And I just said to myself, I don't want to go anymore. But to be honest, if it weren't for the pandemic, I probably would have probably been even more difficult to stop going, because once it hit and there were no services to go to, it was so much easier to just stop going.
Jennifer, before making this film, you emphasized the importance of telling the story from the perspective of the survivors. Why did you take that specific approach?
I think that anytime you tell a story that's based in traumatic experiences, it has to be handled very, very carefully. In real time, a lot of the survivors were, as Alethea said, were processing what happened to them as abuse. And it wasn't just the sexual abuse, it was the spiritual abuse, the economic abuse, the coercion, and also the sexual abuse. And so we knew that we wanted to make this a partnership. We wanted them to have agency.
The leader, Nason Joaquin Garcia, is behind bars. He pled guilty to 3 counts of sexual abuse of underage girls back in June and will serve nearly 17 years in prison. Is that enough for you? Is that justice for survivors?
Of course not. He deserved to be there for the rest of his life. He's a sexual predator, a human predator, but also minds and bodies and souls, I can say. And so human predators they're never going to change. And so he deserves to be in bars for the rest of his life, away from society.
Thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us here at ABC News Live Prime. Alethea, thank you so much for sharing your story with Jennifer and here as well. So sorry that you had to go through that, but I'm glad to see that you are a survivor. Unveiled, Surviving La Luz del Mundo is now streaming on HBO Max. And still to come, the selfless sacrifice that will tie a Kansas City Chiefs fan and Philadelphia Eagles fan for the rest of their lives.
We have the Jonas Brothers.
I don't think they had any idea what was in store for them.
Let's go! You know, normal day, waiting for international rock stars to enter the car. Here they come.
Let's do it.
Last chance to back out, guys.
It's cool if I tell Joe, like, hey, verse 1.
Hey, he's gonna be cool.
24 hours with the Jonas Brothers.
Enjoy the ride.
This is Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu. With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television. After an extraordinary news-making year, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and politics show on Sunday mornings. He may not look like central casting for a movie star hero, but what he did and how he risked it all to save hundreds of lives from terror are what heroes are made of.
Really? That guy?
What's the life and death truth behind what he did? Truth and Lies, The Informant. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Reporting from Santa Fe, New Mexico, I'm Lindsay Davis. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
This year's Super Bowl may have sharply divided Chiefs fans and Eagles fans, but with one very notable exception. Two men, one of them an Eagles fan, the other a Chiefs fan, were brought together on this Super Bowl Sunday by a bond of selfless sacrifice. Reporter Andy Alcock with our partner station in Kansas City has their story.
John Gladwell and his wife Randy boarded a Chiefs team bus Friday morning and then took this charter flight to the Super Bowl. This dream journey started more than 2 years ago when John donated his kidney to Billy Welsh. Both men served together in the Marine Corps, but they were not friends.
No, we did not like each other while we were in.
He was a jerk.
But when Billy reached out on social media in desperate need of a kidney, John responded.
I was shocked when he said he was a match and he was going to be in town like next week. I cried.
I don't think I could have lived with myself if I could do something but didn't.
Never in a million years would I ever thought that dude would have given me a kidney.
After his kidney donation, John faced his own health crisis. About a year ago, COVID sent him to the hospital's intensive care unit with kidney failure. It took him nearly a month to recover. Now, the two men who didn't like each other in the Marine Corps share an unbreakable bond.
We're family.
He is my hero.
A selfless sacrifice indeed. That is our show for tonight. I'm Stephanie Ramos. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. And you can always find us on Hulu, the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com. We'll be right back.
This is where I belong. This is home. Real dirt in the sunlight again. I'm very excited. Anything could happen at any moment. My heart is so happy right now. We're making magic. We're making magic.
We are the Jonas Brothers.
I don't think they had any idea what was in store for them.
You know, normal day, waiting for international rock stars to enter the car. Here they come.
Let's do it. Last chance to back out, guys.
It's cool if I tell Joe, like, hey, verse 1.
He's gonna be cool.
24 hours with the Jonas Brothers.
Enjoy the ride.
This is Impact by Nightline, now streaming on Hulu.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. Been a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning, America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
May 24th, 2022, in Uvalde, Texas, Robb Elementary School is celebrating a year of good grades and hard work.
Citizenship recognition goes to Darian Ojeda and Alexandra Rubio.
It was a end-of-the-year award ceremony, just like any other year.
AV Honor Roll, Aiden Echevarria, Jose Flores.
Proud parents Gloria and Javier Cáceres are there to support their daughter, 9-year-old Jackie, the youngest of 3 children.
She came in and I started waving at her and blowing her kisses and Daddy loves you. And she's doing this number and I'm embarrassed.
When the ceremony is over, Gloria and Javier take a photo of Jackie on the far left with her friends.
So I say bye and I blew her a kiss.
The 4th graders, gleeful at the thought of summer break approaching, return to their classrooms. Teacher Arnie Reyes puts on a movie, a reward for his students as the school year winds down.
It was going to be a good day.
But then suddenly, on that clear blue Texas day, a truck crashes outside the school. It's captured by security cameras across the street, obtained by ABC News. One of thousands of pieces of digital evidence later collected by investigators.
Yes, there was just an accident right here behind Rob's school. They ran into the ditch. It's a pickup truck.
Amy Marin, a school speech specialist seen here on surveillance camera, had just gone outside where she witnesses the crash.
I was running to him to help him.
You were worried about him?
My first thought was somebody had a heart attack.
But Amy, who today still suffers from nearly constant PTSD-induced tremors, realizes within seconds that the single vehicle crash looks much more sinister.
Oh my God, they're running. I don't know why. Oh my God, he has to die.
Security footage then captures the driver of that pickup truck walking away from the crash. He heads directly toward Robb Elementary.
He's up in the schoolyard, man. He just jumped over the fence. He's running toward the school. He's wearing black. Please hurry.
Yes, sir. We have no units heading out that way.
The gunman continues toward the school, shooting as he gets closer.
What is that? Hey, what is that?
My students were asking me, what's going on? What's that noise? Like, it couldn't be.
A rock that staff sometimes use to prop the exterior school door open is holding it ajar, and Amy Marin runs over.
You see me kick the rock and pull the door?
You did not leave it open?
No.
What Amy doesn't know, which investigators would later uncover, is that the door is not set to lock automatically, as it should have been. So despite her efforts, the door doesn't lock and could not have been locked from the inside. An alert goes out to the school faculty through Raptor, an emergency alert system that places the school on lockdown. A minute later, hallway cameras capture the gunman entering the school through that door, that unlocked door. ABC News is not airing the video. This is a screen grab.
Okay, ma'am, he went inside the building? Oh my God. He made it into the building, guys.
A boy leaves the bathroom to return to his classroom when he sees the attacker and narrowly escapes. Then the shooter enters adjoining classrooms, 111 and 112.
I look at the wall, and the wall's like pieces falling off the wall, and that's when I realized that the loud bangs is a gun.
He's inside the school shooting at the kids!
In just 3 minutes, the gunman fires more than 100 rounds.
That's when he shot my arm. I just remember just falling to the ground, and then he came up to the front and shot my kids after that.
Down the hall, Amy Marin is hiding under a counter, still on with 911.
I'm asking the operator, where are the cops? Where are the cops?
Oh, shots fired! Get inside! Go, go, go!
About 2 minutes later, officers arrive. Two groups of officers enter the building from different directions. On the north side, 3 Uvalde police officers make entry through the same door as the shooter. Among them, the commander of the city police SWAT team. On the south side, 2 Uvalde police officers enter, followed by Uvalde School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo and one of his officers. Chief Arredondo later recounts entering the school to investigators.
A cloud of smoke. As we approached, of course, there was some gunfire coming out, and I know it was coming out through the walls, some in our direction.
Hallway cameras show officers approach rooms 111 and 112. The attacker behind a closed door fires at the officers. 2 of them sustain grazing wounds. They retreat. The initial chance to confront the shooter in that classroom, gone. The other officers also come under fire.
Take cover, guys.
Seconds later, the acting Uvalde City Police Chief that day, Lieutenant Mariano Vargas, is also at the school, seen here in that hallway. At this point, no officer fires at the gunman. And after officers are inside the school, the gunman fires approximately 16 additional rounds over the next 5 minutes.
This is an emergency right now. I'm inside the building. I'm inside the building with this man.
Chief Arredondo later said he dropped his radios before entering the building because he thought they would slow him down. He calls a police landline from his cell phone.
He has an AR-15. He shot a whole bunch of times.
While investigators point to many failures this day, they tell ABC News that these moments, soon after School Police Chief Arredondo arrives, are especially crucial.
Initially, it was reported that this was a barricaded subject, but this wasn't a hostage situation. This was not a barricaded subject. It was, in fact, an active shooter.
Chief Arredondo later said he thought the attacker was cornered. Investigators say he failed to recognize the attack as an active shooter in those pivotal moments.
Clearly, the failure right at the beginning was the inability of the officers on the scene to continue to engage the subject till he was neutralized, period. If you don't immediately confront that active shooter, lives are going to be lost.
It's a place where you have to step up, put your own life on the line, and that starts at the top.
And according to a school district active shooter plan, written in part by Chief Arredondo himself, he was the officer at the top, the one who was to assume leadership and command in the event of an active shooter.
This event took place in a school. It fell under the jurisdictional authority of the school police. The chief of the school police was on scene.
There's no question about it that he was the on-scene commander in the hallway.
Chief Arredondo would later tell investigators he did not see himself as the commander that day. The time is about 11:45 a.m., and there are 18 officers in the building, according to records reviewed by ABC News. 12 minutes since the attacker entered the school. Officers are now responding to the school from all law enforcement agencies, including Border Patrol and the Texas Department of Public Safety.
So anyone showing up at the scene, is very difficult to try to process in your mind that this is still an active shooter when you have people waiting around, because you don't wait around in an active shooter situation.
Tell them to get out of the hallway.
Wait, Chief is in there. Chief's in charge right now. Hold on.
Anxious parents are gathering outside the school, desperate for information. Gloria and Javier Cáceres, seen here in the red shirt, are right there, searching for their daughter, Jackie.
Police, of course, trying to hold people back.
What did they tell you?
We don't know what's going on. Confused, they're all confused themselves.
Inside, Chief Arredondo makes the decision to evacuate children from neighboring classrooms.
There's probably going to be some deceased in there, but we don't need any more from out here. So I called out and I said, get these kids out.
Watch out the window. Okay.
But rescuing those children in neighboring classrooms before stopping the gunman goes against active shooter training, according to law enforcement officials.
We've learned that lesson, from Columbine, and the doctrine since then has been in an active shooter situation is to immediately locate the subject, isolate him, and neutralize him.
But instead of confronting the shooter, Chief Arredondo tries to negotiate with the attacker.
Individual in room 111, 112. Clear. Room's clear. This is Arredondo. Guys, this is Arredondo, sir. Can you please put your firearm down?
As other officers continue evacuating children from other classrooms.
Okay, room's clear.
At this point, kids are coming out, and I'm not seeing my daughter come out.
The time is now 12 p.m., 27 minutes after the attacker entered the school. There are 28 officers in the building, and while children are evacuated from other classrooms, one 10-year-old girl calls 911 from inside a classroom under attack.
America's #1 news, ABC News. Most watched, most trusted, and streaming live to you anytime, anywhere, and free. This is ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Free to you 24/7. Watch America's #1 news whenever you want it, wherever you are, anytime. ABC News Live, streaming live and free on all platforms.
Uvalde County 911. Can you tell me your name?
Over a series of phone calls, 10-year-old Chloe Torres pleads for help.
Please hurry. There's a lot of dead bodies.
Chloe, whose family knows we're broadcasting portions of her 911 calls and want them to be heard publicly, tells the operator where she is, one of the 2 rooms the gunman has entered.
Be quiet. I'm going to tell you everybody because of them. Nobody's listening to me. I don't understand all these situations. My dad taught me when I was a little girl. Send help. Some of my teachers are still alive, but they're shot.
Okay, please. Someone's trying to get to you, Chloe, okay?
Please, I can't wait. I can't do this like that.
Be quiet, Chloe. How many people are in there that are alive with you?
I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 people. 7, 8.
The 911 operator relays Chloe's information on the police radio.
You got into any unit you like to in. Just advising we do have a child on the line. It's going to be room 12.
Go ahead with that child's information relayed.
The child is advising he is in the room full of victims at this moment.
That should have immediately signaled a different course of action.
But the communication system, both radios and Wi-Fi, are not strong and often not working at all.
Information not getting back to the decision makers in those hallways.
And there was no command post set up to centralize information. No one collecting and effectively disseminating crucial details in real time. Without a command post, there was no way to ensure that police stacked up inside the hallway had the information they needed to make the right decisions.
No one performed the basic function that's needed in an incident such as this to take command and control over the situation.
Meanwhile, Chloe is still on the line with 911. It's been about 12 minutes since she first called.
Please help. You're supposed to die.
That information should have been taken in by the call taker, should have been immediately relayed to the incident commander, who should have used that information to understand that this was still an active shooter event.
Inside classroom 112, Chloe is doing everything she can to survive. Skills her father, Ruben Torres, a Marine, taught Chloe and her siblings.
We've spoken about things like this happening around our nation. Give them scenarios, what would they do, you know?
Chloe even made the difficult decision to cover herself with blood. The blood of those injured inside her classroom, to make it look like she was shot.
To put the blood on her, you know, I find it amazing, you know, that my 10-year-old at that time, like, just thought about that.
The entire time, officers are just feet away, guns drawn. Nearly 15 minutes since Chloe first called.
They're inside of the building, okay? You need to stay quiet, okay?
They're inside the building. You just need to stay quiet. Come immediately. 112.
Whether or not Chief Arredondo knew of Chloe's calls is unclear. But the city of Uvalde's top police officer on the scene did know of Chloe's call, indicating that children were trapped inside the classroom.
There's victims in the room with us. A child on the phone, multiple victims. A child just called that they have victims in there. Call 911.
Lieutenant Mariano Vargas, the acting Uvalde City Police Chief that day, is also seen on body cam, stepping outside to call a police landline to ask about Chloe's 911 calls.
The call that you got in from one of the students, what did they say?
Okay, Chloe's gonna be Chloe. She's in room 112, Mariana 112.
So how many are still alive now?
8 to 9 are still alive.
But Vargas later tells investigators he cannot recall these details.
What about 911 calls that were being made to dispatch? Did you hear any radio traffic regarding that? Mariano, do you know?
I don't remember. I really don't. I remember somebody saying that I thought there was a kid calling dispatch that he was inside.
During one of Chloe's 911 calls, more gunshots are heard. ABC News is not airing that audio. Surveillance video captures the gunman firing 4 more rounds. Finally, 47 minutes after Chloe placed her first call to 911 and 77 minutes after the gunman stepped foot inside Robb Elementary, officers from the Border Patrol Tactical Unit decide the wait is over. At 12:50 p.m., they breach the classroom.
So I just closed my eyes really tight and just, pray for the best.
The Border Patrol officers see the gunman in the corner, shooting toward them, and they return fire.
Subject down, subject down.
The gunman is dead, 77 minutes after entering Robb Elementary. He would later be identified as 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, a former student at the school who, investigators say, had been spiraling downward in the months prior. The shooting took place in his former 4th grade classroom. Teacher Arnie Reyes in room 111 was shot twice in his arm and his back, and he's bleeding profusely.
They don't know how they're going to take me to the hospital. Everything's blocked, everything's, a mess out there.
Inside room 112, Chloe Torres, that brave 10-year-old girl who made those 911 calls, is alive along with 9 classmates. But so many others are not.
There was a chaplain and 2 rangers that came looking for us. And so I asked, is she alive? And one of the rangers just looked at me and said, no, she's not.
9-year-old Jackie Cáceres did not survive. Captured on her mother Gloria's phone is that photo at the award ceremony that morning, taken just 35 minutes before the gunman entered the school.
It's Jackie, Eliana, Lexi, Layla, and Neve. Those are all victims.
They all died.
Yes.
On May 24th, 2022, at Robb Elementary School here in Uvalde, Texas, 19 students and 2 teachers never came home. Not a single one of the 11 students in teacher Arnie Reyes' classroom survived.
It was hard. It was hard.
The first hours and days after the shooting were marked by a series of misstatements and inaccuracies by officials.
They showed amazing courage by running toward gunfire for the singular purpose of trying to save lives.
And at that same press conference,
they did contain him in the classroom, and they put the tactical stack together, in a very orderly way, and of course breached.
And then, day by day, the facts start to change, and information is walked back.
There's some new information as of Tuesday that I wanted to clear up.
Governor Abbott and McCraw eventually said they were misled by local officials.
The idea that this was an heroic and well done and an effective and efficient operation was not the case. And when we determined that it was not the case, we reported otherwise.
It was time to deliver answers to the people of Uvalde.
Eva Guzman, a former justice of the Texas Supreme Court, served on the investigative committee formed because of concern that the public was not getting a true account of events at Robb. The committee points to Diaz Street, where the gunman lived just blocks away from Robb Elementary with his grandparents, because less than 10 minutes before the attacker crashed that truck in the ravine outside the school, he shot his own grandmother at home.
Diaz Street will forever, I think, remain embedded in the minds of Uvalde citizens as the place where this tragedy began.
The attacker messages an acquaintance. I just shot my grandma in her head, and I'ma go shoot up an elementary school right now. An online acquaintance in Germany responds, cool. He then steals his grandmother's truck, and the grandmother seeks help.
Her reaction was not to call 911, it was to run across the street to a neighbor.
In fact, a 911 call from Diaz Street doesn't come in until nearly 15 minutes after the attacker shot his grandmother and when he's already inside the school.
Anytime there is criminal activity this close to a school, there ought to be an effort to immediately notify the school.
But because of that delay, neither police nor Robb Elementary knew about the shooting in time.
Those 7 to 9 minutes could have made a difference. We'll never know. It'll always be a what if.
The committee raised questions about the law enforcement response to Diaz Street and why Uvalde County Sheriff Ruben Nolasco appeared on this scene, stayed, and was delayed in arriving to the Robb Elementary attack. And inside the school, it turns out there were distinct opportunities to breach the classroom that were missed.
I'm certain I heard him reload. I did hear that at one time. I don't know if there was a second.
If a law enforcement officer hears a suspect reloading their firearm, it should say two things to that officer. One, that the threat is not over, and two, that may be an opportunity to immediately breach and engage.
And there were other failures and missteps. Time spent hunting for keys to the classroom door that had been reported broken and never fixed. It could have been opened without a key.
We know that if there had not been these systemic failures, that if one person had responded differently at any moment, maybe the outcome could have been different.
Less than 24 hours after the attack, during an interview with investigators, Arredondo explains his decisions that day.
I had students that were around there that weren't the immediate threat besides the ones that I know were the immediate threat. And the preservation of life around everything around him, I felt was priority because I know there was probably victims in there. And with the shots I heard, I know there's probably somebody who's going to be deceased. I know these weren't.
In law enforcement, you can't assume that they're not going to survive. You have to assume that they could have survived if you get in there immediately and address the threat.
In total, 376 law enforcement officers responded to the attack on Robb Elementary that day.
We failed to prevent it from happening. And I say failed, and I said we, and I said the law enforcement community, because collectively we did.
The Texas Rangers under Steve McCraw at the Texas Department of Public Safety have completed their initial investigation, which is now honing in on culpability and possible criminal charges. A final version of the report will go to the Uvalde County District Attorney.
We have one chance to get this right, and it is very important for the decision to prosecute to be based on all of the evidence.
The investigation is examining the actions of every law enforcement officer who responded that day. And sources tell ABC News the focus is on the law enforcement leadership who were there that day and the decisions made in the critical first moments.
Based on that information, we can make an intelligent decision about what crimes may have been committed.
It may take even more months to learn whether any law enforcement officials might be charged with crimes for what happened on May 24th, 2022. But the top lawman in Texas says it's a real possibility.
My belief is there's possible criminal culpability. Certainly there's malfeasance committed that particular day. And from our standpoint, looking at every officer and looking internally at our own officers, is that, what did they know? When did they hear? When did they arrive? What did they do at that point in time?
All questions that continue to haunt Uvalde, especially teacher Arnie Reyes.
I'm furious. They have all the tactical gear, bulletproof vests, guns. They had all of that. I have a pencil. It's not the same battle.
Chloe, the 10-year-old girl who made all those 911 calls while the shooter went back and forth between the classrooms, is now in counseling, but has not returned to school.
She does have survivor's guilt. I hate to say it, but like, she really don't care anymore, like, about doing the little things that she used to do, you know? She just wants to be stuck at home.
Alongside many of the other victims' families, Jackie Cáceres' family is channeling their grief into pushing for stronger gun control laws. The Cáceres were recently briefed on the autopsy report for their daughter. They say from what they know, it appears to show that Jackie was shot in one of the gunman's final barrage of shots before the breach, while all those officers were standing in the hallways.
Because of her injury, she would have bled out quickly. And if she was shot at the very beginning, then she wouldn't have had a pulse at the end of the 77 minutes. And she did. She was still alive.
What does that tell you?
So that for sure tells me that if the cops would have gone in when they should have, then my daughter would still be here with me today.
The consequences of police inaction at the scene, that is really the whole point of the investigation, and that would be a part of what's presented to the grand jury.
I love it. It's perfect. It's perfect.
What keeps you going?
Just seeking justice for our daughter and for those kids and the teachers. Because I can't see my future. I can't even see tomorrow or next week.
We've seen that hashtag written, remember their names. What does that mean to you, Javier?
In my mind, they're trying to drag this out so people will forget their names and get it over with and move on. But no, we're not gonna let that happen. There's no way.
We don't want them ever to be forgotten.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Yes. So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do? Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show. Reporting from the White House, I'm Terry Moran. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Saved from beneath the rubble. We're on the ground in Turkey, bringing you stories of humanity and miracles snatched from tragedy. Plus,
it took a while before they realized this was not another bailout, but in fact, an active shooter.
We go to Uvalde, Texas, and report on one of the many points of failure in response to the mass shooting at Robb Elementary. And
it's a celebration, and you run, hug your teammates, hug your family members, because all your hard work paid off.
The champ, the MVP, Patrick Mahomes, in his own words, just after